Hello, my name is Jahan, and I survived a forced marriage. I was born in New Jersey. I was there until 5 years. I was 5 years old, so I don't really remember much. And then we moved all the way to Oregon. My relationship with my family was amazing. I felt like we always had a great connection. We always made excuses to see each other, and especially my cousins. I had a lot of cousins, and we always had parties and gatherings, and it was a great blend of like culture and religion and just amazing things that it was just great. Although my family and I were very close, I always knew that there is things about my culture that I wasn't ever going to accept. I was introduced to the idea of getting married to my cousin. I think when I was 8 years old, my cousin was 13 years older than me. When my family would bring up the idea of an arranged marriage or just getting married in general, I always thought it was very weird. I obviously growing up in the U.S., the culture is different, and we don't marry our cousins. Like I think that's pretty. I mean, everyone knows that, but back home in some cultures, they do that. And every time my family would ask me about getting married to him, I just would kind of push it away. I would always say no, and I think eventually it got scary for them because of how I wasn't thinking the way they were. And that's when things became real. So when I was 12 years old, I went back to Pakistan. I was very excited to see my family. During this time, I was dealing with a lot of health issues, something specifically called periodic paralysis disorder. So sometimes I would just be paralyzed, and that had been going on for a couple of years now. So I was just getting used to it. One night, I took my medication like normal, and I went to bed. And then I only remember little bits and pieces of that night. And I remember him coming in, and um, when I woke up in the morning after that, I realized that something terrible had happened that night. He knew what he did, and I knew what he did, but I just wanted to leave. And we were close to leaving and coming back home anyway, so I just kept it to myself and stayed quiet. My 24-year-old cousin raped me in order to get a visa, and during the time, I didn't understand why. I didn't know how much it meant and how it could change his life. But later, I found out that not only it changed my life, but change his too. While I was in Pakistan for the remaining time, I just kept it to myself. I kept it a secret. I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. I was just scared. I didn't know what had happened and why it happened, but I knew it was wrong. Eventually, we did come back to the States, came back to Oregon, and I tried to pretend as if nothing happened. I didn't know really what was going on. And then I talked to my closest cousin, and she was older than me, and I told her what had happened and how uncomfortable it made me feel. And she said, "Jahan, you were raped." And I couldn't believe it. Not me, not at 12 years old. I heard about that, but that can't happen to me. Why? So she told me, she's like, "Jahan, you either have to tell your mom or I'm gonna do it." And I wanted my mom to hear it from me. So I went to her and I told my mom, this is what happened in Pakistan. And I was hit with the reaction I wasn't expecting. Instead of comfort, I was told that I was going to get engaged to him at 13 years old. I remember my family telling me, he's a great person, he's very kind, he will make sure you're taken care of in the future and, you know, give you a great life and all these great things. He was seen as an angel. And being 12 years old, after going through everything and also going through health issues during that time, I was like, yeah, like there's someone there to protect me always. Like he's going to be married to me and I'm going to have that protection. And that's what I need. I need that. Being 12 years old and already going through that, I said yes. And I will forever regret that. But I knew there was parts of it that I would never accept and I would never pass down to my children. And when I was thinking about the future and having to spend the rest of my life with the person who hurt me and never really being happy and never really getting to experience falling in love, I just knew I couldn't do it. So when I got engaged, I came back home after the summer was over, and I pretended as if I was not engaged. I made sure I blocked him. I didn't talk to anyone. I was just set to survive. So even though I was only engaged to him, in our culture, an engagement is pretty much like a marriage. Once you are said to be with this person, you are going to be with this person. And then when I was 17, I was finally sat down and my mom talked to me and was like, hey, you need to actually get married because he's getting really old. And I didn't want to ruin my graduation year. So I decided. I was given a choice to either have it that year, my junior year of high school, or my senior year of high school. So I went back to Pakistan in the summer of my junior year, and I got married to him. That summer was a blur. I still have not fully processed it. I don't know when I will fully process that. I remember little bits and pieces of it. I remember getting married. I remember I didn't want to be involved in my marriage. I didn't want to be. There's marriages in Pakistani culture so beautiful, so gorgeous. The dresses we wear, we have like a billion different clothing changes, and it's just so fun. It's so beautiful, and I didn't get to experience that. I didn't want to choose my dress. And I remember my mom asking me, like, please, Jahan, try to make it work. Like, try your best. And of course, I loved my parents. I would have done anything for them. I did do everything I could. So I looked at my mom and I tried my best. I tried to be a good wife. I tried to be a good daughter-in-law. I tried to be a good daughter. Um, and I pretended as if everything was okay. In my culture and in many cultures, marital rape is not a thing. You cannot be raped when you are married. So when he would hurt me, he did it for himself. He knew what he was doing, but that was just his duty. That was something I had to deal with. I had fully convinced myself that it was okay what he was doing and that I just had to go through that. So when it started hitting me that I kept having to go through that type of physical abuse, everything changed. My whole mindset on everything changed. I think something that I struggled with was finding the difference between my culture and my religion. This was just because my family told me that's what I grew up with. It's just like your religion says this, so like you obey it, and you accept it. And so I thought I was doing right by my religion of like, being a good wife and just going through whatever I had to go through. I thought I was being a good Muslim. Before that, I never really like questioned anything. I never really looked into it too much because I was like, this is what I was taught. Like my family's teaching me, like they're the best of teachers. Didn't need to do anything else. But I started reading my Quran. I actually looking into it. What does my religion say about all of this? And what does my culture say about it? What happened and what should have happened? And I think I started comparing and contrasting everything, and then everything clicked. My Quran said something completely different. Forced marriages are forbidden in Islam. It's a sin to do that to someone, to force them into anything, but specifically a marriage, it's not allowed. So I decided to stop satisfying everyone else and just satisfy myself and my creator. And that's what worked. That's what got me out of it. When I got back to the States, I decided to once again try to pretend like nothing happened. I think also something that made it very important is that we had started the visa process already. And there was a lot of the process is very long. We had started the process when I had come back from Pakistan. I didn't really realize how much we had gotten into it. I didn't even know that it was happening so quickly. But when I found out that, gosh, he only has his interview left, I felt like I was racing against time. I was reaching out to every lawyer I could think of, emailing them, going to offices, missing class time because I wanted to go to an office hour to talk to these lawyers and beg them to help me. And I remember one day I was going through my list of lawyers and I was on the very last person and I couldn't keep it together anymore. I was repeating my story again and again and again to all these people who just kept telling me I don't have enough money, or they can't help me because my case is too complicated, or whatever it may be. So then I went to this lady and I told her everything and I bawled my eyes out. I was like, I'm so sorry, you're my last hope. I don't know what to do after this and I don't have time. And she said, I will help you. She decided to help me. It was a very complicated case because I had no information on how to cancel the visa. We had no information about the case. We had nothing. I just had names and I would try to find things, but it was just so difficult. I didn't have the resources I needed. Then the day came that I was told that your visa is canceled. The visa is canceled. It was as if like I just started seeing colors again. I was so excited. I didn't even realize that I had to eventually tell my family. I think it was like, I was just so excited, like, yeah, I did that. He's not coming. It's fine. I'm great. Then it clicked. I was like, oh, I still have to tell them that this huge thing happened. And by the way, everything that you guys worked for is not happening anymore. So it kind of clicked and I was like, okay, I need to tell my family. It was weird because I feel like they just knew something was up. I remember my uncle asking me like, hey, how are you? Like, what's going on? My parents did everything for me. I will never, ever, ever forget that. They were amazing parents. My mom taught me to be the caring person I am today. My dad showed me love like no other person. I was dad's little girl and mom raised me and made me the person I am. But this whole part of my life, no one wanted to accept. And I remember going to him and telling him, hey, like, I canceled the visa. I talked to you about this before. I can't do it. I couldn't go through with it. I tried my best, but it just didn't work. And I'm so sorry. And again, I was hit with the reaction I wasn't expecting. And eventually, my husband, now ex-husband, found out that his visa was canceled and his whole life that he had planned was not happening anymore. Eventually, with the help of the Domestic Violence Center, I was able to get my divorce papers, and he finally agreed after months and months of trying. He signed that, and it's weird to say, but I thank him for that. Just, I do. I thank him for that. He just set me free in that way.